He had worked his whole life to reach this seat. First class, not just as a luxury, but as a symbol of how far he had come. A black CEO, respected worldwide, traveling on business. But in seconds, the airline made a decision that would humiliate him publicly and remind everyone watching that his skin color spoke louder than his success. He was asked to step aside, forced to give up his rightful seat to another passenger, simply because that man was white. What the airline didn't know? The man they insulted was about to control their $120 million future. It had been a long week of negotiations. Marcus Reed, CEO of a global tech company, was returning home after securing a deal that would redefine his industry. To him, flying. First class wasn't about luxury. It was about rest. A quiet space before he was back to making billion-dollar decisions. Marcus was known for his discipline. Raised by parents who had fought for civil rights, he believed in excellence as resistance. Every promotion, every boardroom he entered, he carried the weight of generations behind him. This trip was no different. He had closed meetings with potential partners, and among them was an airline that wanted his company's technology integrated into their fleet. It was a contract worth over $120 million, one that would modernize their systems and secure them a competitive edge. On this night, Marcus simply wanted peace. He arrived at the airport early, checked in, and walked calmly to his first-class seat. Settling in, he opened his tablet, preparing to review the next quarter's strategy. Around him, the cabin was quiet, filled with executives and frequent flyers. For Marcus, it was routine, nothing unusual. But outside his control, a storm was already brewing. A late-arriving passenger, white, entitled, and restless, would soon set off a chain of events that no one in the cabin could have predicted. What happened next would shake the airline to its core. The boarding process was nearly complete when the man arrived. Tall, sharp-suited, and carrying an air of arrogance. He scanned the cabin, his expression tightening as he noticed his seat, occupied. Flight attendants hurried toward him, flustered. His ticket had been misassigned, a clerical error, but instead of resolving it with professionalism, they made a choice rooted in something far darker. The attendant walked over to Marcus, lowering her voice, but not her condescension. "Sir, there's been a mistake. I'm going to have to ask you to move to business class." Marcus looked up, confused, but calm. His ticket clearly read, first class. He had boarded properly, checked in without issue. He explained politely. But her eyes avoided his. She repeated the request. Firmer, this time, almost impatient. Other passengers turned, watching the scene unfold. Whispers spread across the cabin. The late passenger stood behind her, arms crossed, glaring at Marcus as if his very presence in that seat was offensive. Marcus refused. He had paid for his seat. He was entitled to it. But the flight crew escalated. Another attendant appeared, their tone sharper, urging him to comply for the sake of convenience. They offered no apology, no explanation, only an ultimatum. And then it happened. Under pressure, with the entitled man smirking just a few feet away, they ordered Marcus to leave the seat. A white passenger's comfort was prioritized over his dignity. Cameras flashed. Phones recorded. The humiliation was captured from every angle. Marcus gathered his belongings slowly, deliberately. He walked to business class, every step heavy with the sting of injustice. Around him, some passengers shook their heads in disapproval, but no one intervened. The white man reclined, comfortably in his seat, satisfied. Marcus sat in silence. His mind replayed the moment over and over, the way they looked at him, the decision they made without hesitation. But underneath the humiliation, something stronger stirred. This was not the first time he had faced racism, but this time, the consequences would not end at embarrassment. Because Marcus Reed wasn't just a passenger, he was a CEO with influence over an airline contract worth $120 million. And by morning, the boardroom would hear exactly what had happened here. The flight landed. Marcus disembarked without a word, his face calm but his resolve sharpened. Overnight, the videos spread online, millions of views, headlines erupting, hashtags trending. Outrage mounted. Civil rights leaders condemned the airline, and customers threatened boycotts. But behind the noise, Marcus prepared his own response. He had meetings scheduled with this very airline's executives the next day. They expected to finalize their deal. They had no idea what awaited them. When Marcus entered the boardroom, silence fell. The executives smiled nervously, extending hands, trying to mask the tension of the scandal already on the news. Marcus didn't return the smiles. He placed his tablet on the table, pressing play. The room filled with the sound of humiliation, the attendant's cold tone, the smirking passenger, the quiet gasp of witnesses. Every executive watched as the truth unfolded in vivid clarity. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. When the video ended, he spoke with precision. "Your airline asked me to give up my seat for someone else. Not because of a mistake. Not because of policy, but because of who I am. That decision will now cost you this partnership." The words hit harder than any protest. He stood, gathered his things, and walked out. Behind him, executives panicked. Arnonhunhan had $20 million in revenue, gone in seconds. News of Marcus's decision spread quickly. The video had already gone viral, but now the headlines shifted. Black CEO cancels $120 million airline deal after racist first-class incident. Investors questioned leadership. Customers canceled tickets. Within weeks, the airline's reputation plummeted, its stock price dipping under public scrutiny. Marcus, however, carried himself with quiet strength. For him, it wasn't about revenge. It was about principle. Too many times, people like him had been told to move, to shrink, to accept less than what they had earned. This time, he had the power to say no, and the world had watched him do it. The incident became a case study, not just in corporate racism, but in accountability. Universities discussed it, activists cited it, and companies reevaluated their diversity training. Marcus knew his parents would have been proud. Their fight for dignity had not been in vain. He had turned humiliation into action, and in doing so, reminded the world of a truth too often ignored. Racism does not vanish with status or success. He had been forced from his seat, but in the end, he claimed something greater, a statement that no boardroom, no airline, no amount of money could erase. And the question lingered long after. How many more times will it take before the world finally stops treating black success as less than human? And that's the story of Marcus Reed, the black CEO who turned humiliation into a $120 million lesson. It's proof that no matter how high you climb, racism still finds a way to remind you it's there. But it's also proof that silence isn't the only option. What do you think? Was canceling the deal the right move, or should he have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because these aren't just stories from the past, they're the stories shaping our present.